You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
My name is John Grace, and welcome to the show. We have our co-host, Lewis Geltman, Poker Maverick, King of the North Fork champion, and policy director for the Outdoor Alliance. On the line, we also have John Weld, whitewater legend, co-owner of Immersion Research, and Spray Skirt Master. And special guest in the studio, we have Colin Hunt with us for the whole show. Colin Hunt, I don't have an intro for him, but he is an all-around good guy and sick kayaker and a co-worker here at Amongst It Inc. So, all right, let's get right into it. Welcome back.
Yeah, can we get into this? Actually, Colin works for you. Is this what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Well, I haven't.
So Colin's,
I have in the past, and now it's kind of like part-time contract basis.
You following in a long line of interns that have worked for Grace that have basically gone missing.
Yes.
Does that concern you at all? That's good. I mean, I can name half a dozen young men like yourself who've disappeared after working for Grace for some period of time.
That's such nonsense, Weld.
They weren't lifers. That's the difference.
There's a whole graveyard. There's a whole graveyard behind IR up there, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Weld's going to hit you up afterwards to start working on the tell-all.
So before we get into this, I want to go ahead and say we have the best show notes in the business. You got to check out the feed and have a look at these. These are created by John Weld. I have to edit them down just a little bit, but they are really good. This is your calling, Weld. I'm telling you.
I think you need to edit them down more than just a little bit.
Certain things certainly can't make the air, but it's always a fun read. All right, you guys ready to get into it?
Hey, okay, yeah, no, but first, you know what we need to do? And Kara brought this up the other day, and it's true. We need to introduce you.
Who?
Because you, John Grace.
Well, who wants to do that? Somebody should do that. I mean, I can't do it.
Colin.
I could do it myself.
Let's have Colin do it.
Okay, Colin, introduce me to the show.
All right, John Grace, the first person to ever complete a vertical mile on a single river without lapping any rapid, and also cool. Very good at bouncing babies.
There you go. So
okay.
I can do vertical miles and bounce babies. First topic we want to touch on here, and I sent this in an email to you guys. Colin, a lot of this is news to you, but bear with us here. So I don't know what happened with our season 2 episodes here. I really have no idea, but we essentially went from lowball estimates about 2,500 listeners to around 5,000 in a matter of, 3 weeks or something like that. So what does this mean? In the show notes, are autographs next? Groupies? Are Grace's kids going to get chiggers from used pajamas that we picked up at the Goodwill store? Are we ready? This is serious. Are we ready for a live Hammer Factor? Are we ready for that, guys? Are we ready to?
I think if someone has a great kayaking event and they're willing to fly us out and put us up in a nice hotel and provide beer, yes, I think we're ready.
Well, the reason I think...
Don't forget about the honorarium.
Well.
Yeah. Well, Wells already forgot about that. I got some treats for you coming up. So basically, we have and this is why I think the Hammer Factor Live is a good addition, because we'll get into this, but as we were talking about our open-ended rating system for whitewater, we had basically a dozen emails of people calling us out. And if we would have been live, they could have told us right there, hey, check out this link, and we could have referenced it, and it would have kind of added some value to the dialogue there. So Hammer Factor Live, it may be happening. Also,
first-time caller, long-time listener.
It's funny.
Calling from Hammer Factor Nation.
A couple things.
We need like a catchphrase, the juggler will have like whoop whoop, something like that.
Or some sound effects to go.
Is Colin a little hot there? Is that better? So looking back, so I look at this, I'm like, oh God, man, there's like a lot of, I'm picturing a crowd, like a room of 5,000 people and us talking in front of them, which is essentially what we got going on here with the Hammer Factor. And so I decided to listen. And I don't know about you, Weld, or you, Lewis, but how often do you guys listen to the show?
I listen occasionally.
Yeah.
I listen to one show.
I hardly ever listen. But anyway, I was like, man, what happened? So I started like going back over and listening to a few of our more successful shows and whatnot. One trend that came out of this that I want to clarify is there is this mantra that's come up on the Hammer Factor that the only way you can be a good paddler is if you are a slalom guy. All right? Yes, it's come up. I'm listening.
Don't put that on me. I'm putting that one on Weld.
I think it's on kind of both of you guys, like Valley Mill, slalom, push-ups and pull-ups. It's like
Don't conflate our nostalgia with a prescription for what you have to do.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to throw props out there to anybody who's kayaking all the time and kayaking hard and practicing. You can get good at kayaking. Look at Dane Jackson. He's not a slalom kayaker. Look at Sam Sutton. He's not a slalom kayaker. There's all
Dude,
kinds
I
of
totally
fakers.
agree. I think that's one of the biggest trends. I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed from 20 years ago or 30 years ago and now is that 25 years ago that was unquestionably true that all the best paddlers had, well, I don't want to say unquestionably true, but it was notable that a lot of the best paddlers had a slalom background. And now you can look at guys like look at Gerd. Like you cannot, like when you watch that guy paddle, you think that he grew up racing slalom because his technique is so good. And it's like, he told me one time, I asked him if he started paddling slalom when he was a kid. And he said that he was like 14 and went to the slalom club and they told him he was too old.
I don't think. I think if I were making a point about that, it would be that there's a lot of boaters out there who are intermediate or advanced level boaters who don't have a lot of skills and they don't have the luxury of traveling around the world paddling the world's best whitewater full time. And if they go out to Gates and they have a Class 2 rapid with Gates on it, which is not that hard to find, they could improve their skills 1,000-fold without running the Upper Yacht 3 times a summer. I just think there's a lot to be gained from that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that too.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is a point that Kara's made up, and I would need Kara to really defend this, but her point is that there's a lot of extreme racers out there who are on the sort of very loose extreme race circuit who have no discipline whatsoever when it comes to training. It's basically party, race, party, race, party, race. You know what I mean? And there's no idea they're going to go do a workout 2 times a day to train for this kind of an event.
Yeah,
but it seems to be working.
She's always felt like if someone were actually training with the same discipline as a slalom racer, that it would be, it'd be a whole different level performance.
That's essentially what Gerd did a couple of years ago when he swept all the races. He put in a ton of work, and it showed by him, winning Little White Race, North Fork Championship, other races around the country. So.
Well, I'll back it up that if you're running the Stikine in a day, every day for like a week and a half, that's harder training than you're ever going to do doing 2-a-days at some course.
Sure. No one's going to argue that, but how many people are doing that? How many people have the ability, come on.
Anyway, that was
I can't even begin to argue with that. It's so stupid.
Anyway, we're off topic here, but I just wanted to point that out because I was actually listening to the
now
show.
Forever.
And I will say that...
how long would it take to do a vertical mile on the feeder canal?
like your entire career.
And I will say that listening through the past episodes, we have some, definitely we're weak in some regards, but it's pretty entertaining. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. Also, I was looking over the stats, and it's funny. Like the whole first half a year we were doing this, there were 150 of our friends listening. like we should have just been like calling out our friends who are listening on the show instead of acting like we had this audience. There was nobody listening. All right. Where are we at? Okay.
Let's talk about river levels real quick, because that did get a lot of emails.
Okay.
In top of the people chiding us for not mentioning the AW system.
Lead us off on that.
Well, I'll read out a couple, and you guys can give me your reaction to this. So Nate Woodward wrote us, and he basically offered the threshold for Class 5 would be the consequences of swim. The difference between a Class 4 and a Class 5 is that if you swim in a Class 5, you could get really badly hurt or killed.
Let me read his email here. So Nathan Woodward, hat tip Nathan Woodward. So the whole, once you get into Class 5, there is a big range thing, which is something we talked about on the show. My question is, how do you guys differentiate what makes a Class 4 rapid and a Class 5 rapid? Personally, my threshold is consequences for a swim. Class 4 equals banged up swim. Class 5 equals banged up swim, potential for getting really beat up or killed if it's bad. Does anybody want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm there on that one. I don't know. I mean, especially like big drops, like, or how about, and I know it's fun to call it California Class 3, but how about like the Thing on Fantasy Falls? Like that rapid is like
big,
gnarly, man. Like I've never run that rapid, and I have no plans of running that rapid. And if you swim, assuming that your arms haven't been literally torn off of your body before you manage to pull your spray skirt, you're going to be okay. But like, I don't know how you don't call that thing Class 5. I don't know.
I agree. I've always said that the rating system, it depends on difficulty and consequence. So there's a rapid on the Chattooga called Crack in the Rock, which it's several different cracks, but it's essentially a 2 or 3 foot ledge. If you mess it up, there's pretty awful sieves in there. That's Class 5, but then you can also have like the 40 footer on the middle Fui. It's kind of like the California rapid you just mentioned, where like people boof it, they freewheel it, you can do whatever you want off of it. There's a giant pool at the bottom. So the difficulty, I don't know, wouldn't say it's super hard, or no, I'm getting this mixed up. The consequence isn't really there. There's a giant pool at the bottom. You're not going to break yourself. You're not going to go into a hole or a sieve. But it's a 40-foot waterfall. You can't really call that Class 4. So
I think you could.
You could?
Yeah.
I couldn't.
What would you call Metlaco?
2.
All right, so here's another one from Sam Haywood. It's about the same thing, so this topic's not over. He says, Sam Haywood writes in, one last thing, I'm interested in what class you'd rate the 5 falls of the Chattooga. This leads into what Colin was just talking about. When I heard that you said the Nantahala Cascades was Class 4, I was a bit taken back. The dynamic between flow, difficulty, and consequences is certainly interesting. So what do you think he means? Does he think Cascades is 3, or does he think it's 5?
I was gathering he thought it was 5. I mean, it's not a 3. I don't think I would call it a 3. I think.
No. I think like that is the quintessential Class 4 rapid. It's hard. It's pushy. There are some beatdown potential in a hole, but you can pretty much point it downriver and keep it straight, and you're going to be fine anywhere.
Yeah, evidently the parade of beaters going down that rapid on a medium water day is long.
Yeah.
With no one
it's
getting
funny
killed.
too, like we have a few out here, like the farmland section above the green trout and the white salmon that we call Class 4, and like Canyon Creek north of Portland that we call Class 4. And like both of those runs have a couple of just like really, really sticky ledge holes. And it's like, if you are good at boofing and know how to do that and keep your bow up all the time, it just like couldn't be easier. And if you're like kind of shaky with that skill, like that Lava Falls rapid on the farmlands, it's just like a super clean 8-foot ledge with a really bad hole. And it's like, if you're a class 5 paddler, like, you don't get your face wet, your heart rate doesn't go above 40, and it's whatever. But if you're like kind of shaky on whether or not you can land that thing flat and paddle out, and you don't do that, like, you're going to get just punished, you know?
Right.
And it's sort of like, once you have that skill wired, it's like, it's just not a big deal. But until then, it's going to be like, you're going to have a real average time, you know?
Would you guys... sorry, Will, go ahead.
I've noticed in my paddling career how people will come to a rapid, like, say, the Big Splat or whatever on the Sandy, and they'll say, well, if you swim there, you're going to die. That's all there is to it. You're going to die. And then someone swims there and they're okay. And then 20 years later, 500 people swim over that rapid, and people realize, well, you're actually really not going to die at all. And now it's a class 4.
Huh.
But you're still going to have like a pretty average experience if you swim over Big Splat, you know? I mean,
pretty average. Well put.
Yeah, it would prompt like a 1-star review on Yelp if you swam over that. Fantastic waterfall, terrible swim, 1 star.
Well, you know, so let's talk about Big Splat. Is that a 4 or a 5? Including the lead in and everything.
I mean, to me, it's so. I mean, this is the root of the problem for me, because for me, I'm like, it's 4. It's a class 4, plain and simple. But I know so many people are going to disagree with that, you know.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's multiple moves. So, like, when you get into a class 4, there may be, like you're talking about, Lewis, like one ledge you have to boof or something like that. Where it gets into class 5, in my estimation, is when, and I'm taking consequences out of the equation, just talking about difficulty, is when you have multiple moves you have to make. So if you've got 3 or 4 stout moves that you got to pull off in the same drop, to me that's a class 5 rapid versus one important move. And that's why I would agree with you on Big Splat, because, you know, it's really one move.
Along the same lines, like the Blackwater, I think, is a whole series of class 4 moves that packed together make a class 5 run.
Yep, exactly.
Because they're just so stacked.
Depends on
And
the level.
and the Blackwater's had a history of killing people. You know, so there is definitely consequence for a swim.
To me, my class 4 benchmark is, I like envision somebody who feels totally comfortable running the upper gully. And that's kind of like the top of their ability. And I'm like, if I took that competent upper gully paddler to this river, how are they going to feel about it? And if the answer is like peaked out and this might not be a good idea, then I'm starting to think that that's getting towards class 5.
Well, I don't know. This is a great discussion. I don't think it's going to end on this episode, but
I think next episode it will end, though. We will have the final answer, and we will disseminate that information to the paddling community, and that will be the end of it.
But it took us a whole
and
season.
Once again, it'll be 4 white men deciding what's right and what's wrong for everyone in the rest of the world.
Amen. But I mean, think about it. It took us a whole season to convince the world that 200 centimeters was minimum length. I mean, so it may take us a little while to convince people the difference between 4 and 5 here.
Maybe if we had a live call-in show, we could stop talking about the same things over and over again.
Okay.
Maybe that would help.
All right. Let's move on.
Moving on in the show notes, Weld is considering starting a Kickstarter to get yeasted beyond the prototype stage.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because I had high hopes for yeasted. Evan Garcia, poo-pooed this yeasted thing last episode, suggesting it could never get off the ground, and I disagree. And I'm getting Kickstarter going, and if I get it off the ground, every paddler in this country will be able to use the term yeasted, maybe even the world. And you're asking, why am I raising the money? It's to get Evan Garcia deported, and the rest of his family deported, back to wherever the Garcias come from. Honduras? Guatemala? I don't know.
We'll
I don't care.
We'll have the
Getting
link.
rid of them.
We'll have the
They're
link.
poo-pooing yeasted. I don't want them in this country anymore.
We'll have the link to the Kickstarter for Yeasted Foundation in the show notes.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the race in Europe.
Yes.
We had some email about this.
We did indeed.
Actually, some quite passionate people who wrote in. I'm going to pick a couple here. This one This one
For
kind
the
of.
record, this was Geltman.
This
who
is
was
Geltman.
really anti-sick line. I had nothing to say about it. I have no problem with sick line.
I have no problem
I look
with
at
sick
sick
line.
line. You know what I think when I look at sick line? I'm like, how do I get some of that Adidas money coming my way? That's the only thing I think about.
Weld's just glad that somebody else is the focal point of angry emails this week.
Dude, you have no idea how awesome this is. All right, Grace,
Yep.
let him have it.
All right, so Geltman, this one's directed at you. You're the king poo-poo of the sick line. Jan Chautka writes in. This was a YouTube. This came in through our YouTube channel.
I think it's Jan.
Shit. Amen. Hey, come on, we're 4 white guys here. You know. Jan Chautka, I'm going to say it like that. He says, I think organizers of the sick line has done quite impressive job, and impact of the whitewater paddling on a global commercial scale is bigger than any other event in the world. Quality of athletes highest too. I don't like the rules. I don't like restrictions on boat lengths and composite plastic. I don't like banning the BRAP, etc. But it's Olaf's race. If you don't like it, don't do it, or even better. Please make better event, and I will race there. Lewis?
Yes. Well, as I told you guys earlier, I've carefully examined my feelings on this subject over the last 20 minutes, and I've arrived at the conclusion that my ill feelings towards sick line stem entirely from the use of the term World Championships. It's just not the World Championships. You can't just name your event the World Championships, be like, and then he's like, oh, it's Olaf's race. Olaf gets to make these decisions. If it's the World Championships, it's not Olaf's race. If it's Olaf's race, it's not the World Championships. Like, there has to be something beyond, like, we've named our race the World Championships. And you're right, like, fundamentally, everything about it is cool. I think that's the whole thing that's coloring my feelings about this. It's just like you can't just call your race the World Championships. It's the same rapid every single year. It's just World Championships travel. World Championships have input from a wider group of people than one race organizer. Like, it's just, that's what it is. And beyond that, it's great. It's fine. But I can't quite get past that.
And I will back it up. If you are going to call your race the World Championship, you better be prepared for all of this stuff that comes from it. So you're calling yourself the World Championship. Hey, I agree. I think it is Olaf's race.
I think it could be on one river as long as the river is the green.
That's why Green Race 23 next year, the Whitewater World Championship is our tagline. So
you guys have already elevated the Green Race beyond a mere world championship of kayaking to the greatest show in all of sports.
Exactly.
So, have you guys copyrighted that yet?
No, but I mean, pretty much it's understood at this point. All right, here's one for Lewis, and we kind of skipped our policy. Do we want to get into any policy, Lewis? Do you have any zinky dirt or anything that we can talk about, or do we get right into the snail darter here?
We can talk about the snail darter. We can talk about this monuments bill. We can talk about Congress voting yesterday to open up drilling in the Arctic Wildlife Refuge.
I think we've actually said enough already. Thank you, Lewis. That was great.
Yeah. Everything is fucked.
Yeah. hashtag everything is fucked. Quint Doan, really? Well, I love your show notes, dude. If I'm ever in a bad mood.
That's the greatest name. I don't know who this guy is. I love his name.
Quint Doan wrote in about the candy darter on the Golly. Mr. Doan uses terms like stakeholders and impact, so it must be a real deal. My question is most relevant to Mr. Geltman. This is turning into the Geltman episode.
Well, I'll tell you, he's a lot more animated this week than he was last week.
Yeah.
He was post food poisoning, and you just sat there basically rolling your eyes around in your head.
That was probably the other genesis of my sick line rant, as I was just mad at the world last week.
His question is, I think all boaters should be interested in wildlife and fisheries. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has petitioned the listing of the candy darter, a small fish native and still present in the Upper Golly, as a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. What are the host's thoughts on endangered species in whitewater rivers?
So
I
out
personally
here,
have not formulated my policy yet. I'm going to have to defer this to Mr. Geltman.
out here in the Northwest, there's this, as you guys know, salmon are a big deal out here. And there's this like perennial controversy about this like handful of sea lions that hang out right below Bonneville Dam and just like mow through endangered salmon. And you're not allowed to kill the sea lions because they're protected by like the Marine Mammal Protection Act, I think. But at the same time, they're just like gorging themselves on endangered salmon as they're climbing up through the dam. And, like Jamie Herrera Butler, the congresswoman from White Salmon, she just introduced this bill to say that we can like shoot the sea lions because they're eating the endangered salmon. And it's like, what are we going to do about these sea lions? Should we kill the sea lions? Should we not kill the sea lions? Kayakers with the snail darter thing, we're the sea lion, right? Like the problem is not the sea lion. The problem is that there's this giant federal Columbia River power system that's brought salmon to the point that like one sea lion can kill off the entire species because we've already brought them to this point. And it's like, it's the same thing with kayaking on the Gauley, right? It's like, yes, like we have a conservation ethic. If we don't want to be the ones who kill off an endangered species, if we need to make adjustments to the way kayakers are managed or whatever to make sure that we're not endangering any fish, like so be it. Like we're on board, but we're not, let's make no mistakes about why this fish is endangered. And it has nothing to do with kayakers. So like, let's not try to make kayakers the one people who are, sacrificing or balancing the weight of the survival of this species on kayakers because it's stupid. Like that's not the problem. You know what I mean? So like, let's do our part, but let's like address the whole range of things that are responsible for these things, not just pick out one entity to like scapegoat.
So what are the problems in particular?
I don't know anything about this. I don't really know anything about this fish or the Gauley stuff, to be honest. And like, we don't really work on Endangered Species Act stuff. I'm just ranting about that.
I like the new Lewis.
Lewis is new me. I'm going to take a step back and let him take the heat for a bit. I have a solution for the sea lions. Bring them to Irwin, Tennessee. Hang them.
It can happen. We'll show them. Bring him over here.
I just got a text from Isaac. We're going to call him in, right?
Yeah, we're going to get him in just a little bit. All right. So, Lewis, see if you can contact with Isaac and get a Skype handle, because I don't think I have him on Skype. All right. So, Mr. Weld, real quick here before I get there was an email that Chris Grotmans brought to you when we started talking about the green race, because we're getting ready to get real heavy on the green race here with the Hammer Factor.
Narrows race.
The Green River Narrows race. So, is there any way that we can read that email that Grotmans replied back with?
Well, it was all over the place, and there's a bunch of things in play here. For one, we had a really great email come in from a guy named Kevin Kennedy, and we're not going to discuss the bulk of the email right now. That's for another time. It's a very complicated question, but he mentioned at the bottom that we need to stop talking about SUP. I could not agree more. I think now is the time for us to move forward and try to unify our audience in the podcast around a non-SUP platform. Because basically the problem with Grotman's email is that he spent most of the email defending SUP in some form or another, which is utterly ridiculous. And I don't think it's right for us, and I don't think it's right for the country.
So I feel as though I have a disadvantage here because I'm not provided the context and the previous shit talking against me, so I can't respond.
Right.
Hang on.
I know this. Grotman's just crawled out of his bariatric chamber. He's 75 years old. He looks fantastic.
CrossFit.
Many people don't know about Chris, but he is a tremendous physical specimen.
That was going to be one of my points for our green race discussion, is that the old man muscle is real.
Welcome to the show. We have Chris Grotmans on the show. And Chris, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good. We're right in the middle of it. So let's tell me about this whole, how do we convince Weld that SUP is not the enemy here?
Well, my question is Weld coming from an experiential side here, or is it all just ego and inability to change and adapt to the world around us?
It's
You know,
both.
the world we live in is adapt or perish. So where you at, bud?
Yeah, I've done it. It's completely uninspiring.
Kind of like
what I did see.
Kind
I
of like
saw
that
the
unicycle.
Gully, right?
Can we talk about the unicycle?
I was on the Gully at Dinah Ledges, right? And people stop there and they go surf. And there's a bunch of people with surfboards there, right? And they get out and they go back and forth a bunch of times. And it's not like the stoke you see on like a surfboard in the ocean. It's just people just going back and forth and back and forth. And the only thing I could think is if there was no one else there, they wouldn't be down there. It's kind of a thing you go do because it's like hey, look, I'm on a surfboard in a river kind of a thing.
Okay, I think I'm hearing a whitewater centric kind of message. And there, you know, in my opinion, the sport encompasses a number of different things, just like kayaking does, and they all have their own appeal, and they're all awesome for their own reasons. I don't want to monopolize the Hammer Factor time by continuing this discussion that's been a thread through the last like 20 episodes or something, but yeah, I'm on the pro sup camp, so go ahead and put me over there on that side.
Grumman's also took a couple jabs at me with unicycling and a couple other things, but I'm not going to dignify those comments with response.
I do find it weird that you're a unicyclist, but you can't be into sup. This is such a dichotomy here. There's like, anyway, this is
in terms of like cool sports, you know, there's no question that you can argue that sup is cooler than unicycling. Well, come on.
Well, I'm not talking about unicycling on the Hammer Factor, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I think you guys have hit the parallel exactly, which is it's like a niche, weird thing to do. You should go do it if it makes you happy, but don't tell anybody else about it because we don't want to talk about it.
Thank you. I think that's exactly right.
I want to.
Thank you.
Talking about niche, weird things. Let me have the handle here for just a second. So, this weekend I helped put on the first Float Life Fest. It was a one-wheel festival, one-wheel enthusiast festival. It was 100 one-wheelers who came in from all over the world and whatever. And Mike T was there, world-famous one-wheeler, if that's a term, one-wheeler. But he did have something that relates back to our conversation that was really cool, was this little river surfboard like you're talking about, John, that with the pump and everything, you could fit in the back of your kayak. So you could be out kayaking, whatever, and get to like a good wave or a good spot where there was some kind of access for this. Pump up your little whip there.
Yeah.
Sesh it out. What do you think about that?
I have to be honest, I did want to hop on a surfboard and try surfing that wave on a surfboard.
Yeah.
I was at a sport, I don't know, but it's something I wouldn't mind trying.
That's really interesting. I think that my overarching opinion of this matter is that, you know, the goal for me personally is to be a waterman. So I love to sail, kayak, stand-up paddleboard. I'm not a very good surfer at all, but I try. And everything in between. I don't do riverboarding, unfortunately. I've never been on a riverboard. But I think there's something to be said for being able to enjoy whatever environment you have with the appropriate craft. You know, I can have a blast on Class 2 whitewater or on Class 5 whitewater, and you choose from your quiver accordingly. So I'll summarize my thoughts in that way.
Who brought this guy on the show? I mean, talk about a speed bump. I mean, Jesus.
All right. Now we're going to bring Jason Hale. I'm not sure if Jason Hale needs an introduction onto the show here.
I'm going to get my hand on the beeper.
Yeah.
To, like, beep, censor every fifth word he says.
Yeah, it's time to get your censor button ready. Jason Hale, can you hear us? Welcome to the Hammer Factor.
I got you. Hey guys, how's it going?
You look like you're in like Quintano or something.
My wife says to go away. She's like, I don't want to hear any of this shit.
I'm just gonna do the beeps after. So, all right. So, can we talk about the favorite topic that I would like to talk about on the Hammer Factor this episode, and that's the Green River Narrows race?
Of course.
All right, I'm going to get right into it. So the big controversy over the Sick Line race, the World Championships of Extreme Kayak Racing, which happens in Europe, is all about not allowing certain materials, not allowing boats with appropriate grab handle placements. And in the green race, we have pretty much allowed whatever you can get down the river in the race over the course of its 21 years of happening. But there's been a little bit of talk recently about people saying that it's unfair for Liquid Logic to have the thermoform boats that are only lasting for 5 or 6 runs, that kind of thing. They haven't quite got the technology figured out, but they are obviously... Hale, you got to put your headphones back on. We're getting an echo.
Oh, sorry.
That it's unfair that those aren't on the market, and I want to get everyone's opinion on that. We'll start with you, Jason.
I mean, I don't think anything. Well, especially in the green race, which I can't really speak for other races. It's an open class race. You want people to be safe, but I feel like the BRAP was safe enough with their handles, so I think that was kind of a BS call. I would hate to stop the building of a race, and I truly feel like that Liquid Logic was doing the thermofolding, which they were talking about, to see if it could be something they would sell, and if the rivets would have held, or et cetera, then they could have sold it, and maybe only in a small number. Would we not accept that? I think we would accept that. I mean, what if somebody brought a fiberglass boat and they only want to use it 4 times in the race? I think our race is strong enough where we want to break that 4-minute mark. And I mean, if we would have stopped listening, if we would have listened to all the boat makers back in the day and said, y'all need to stop paddling the tornadoes, then they would have never built a green boat. They would have never built a Stinger, but we kept using those older boats because we wanted to go fast. And so Dagger built a green boat, Liquid Logic built a Stinger, Jackson has built the long boat. I mean, it pushes the sport. I mean, it maybe one year there's going to be a big hiccup. And do I think people could have beat the Liquid Logic team last year? I think they could have. I mean, I don't think it was as easy as it could be, but I think they could have. I think if Eric DeGill would have showed up in whatever boat he was in, I think he could have beat him.
Chris, as affiliated with, let me just say this has come up before in the green race. Number one, in 2006, when Pat had the prototype green boat out, everybody was just in Corsicas and Tornadoes and whatever, and Pat shows up, wins the race in a prototype green boat, and then the next year the green boat was born. So this is not a discussion that's happened in the past. But what happens if you get to a point where people are, the thermoform Stinger is faster, lighter, stiffer, certainly not as durable, but it's for every minute, it's 1 to 2 seconds faster. I've paddled both of them back to back. At what point does it become unfair to stack your team and your event with essentially boats that are never meant for production? Chris, do you have anything on that?
You guys got me with the headphones?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay?
Yep.
Cool. I completely agree with the having paddled. I've never paddled a composite race boat down the green. That sounds incredible. I'd love to. I have paddled carbon freestyle kayaks, and there's an undoubtable advantage to having those things in every way. I mean, it's unbelievable the difference. So I can only imagine and dream of paddling a carbon/composite longboat down the green race and a variety of other races. And my response to it is that, some might argue that, okay, everybody doesn't have that boat, that's not fair, which is possibly what's going on with Sickline. But it in my opinion, it kind of just puts the onus on the manufacturers to step up if it's of value to them. And from my perspective, at Dagger, we don't have a composite longboat, but I think it's awesome that the goal is to go faster in the green race, and that's the only goal. And there's no parameters around which you need to conform. Just innovate, because you're absolutely right, John. The same could have been said about Pat in 2006 with the green boat proto. And look at where that product category has gone since then. I mean, it's awesome. Personally, the green boat is my favorite boat to paddle, period. Like, I paddle it most of the year on many rivers, unless it's just not the appropriate boat, like an overnight or something. But imagine if we had allowed ourselves to be constricted and never created that design because it wasn't officially allowed to win the race. And in terms of sick line, I actually have been thinking about this a little bit this morning, and I have a theory that the BRAP, it's possible that the BRAP and composite boats were banned from sick line because the qualifier for that event is on like a class 2 to 3 section of river that is not like kind whitewater to the class 5 course, and thus would allow people to qualify that just muscle it out on class 2 and 3 in a faster boat in those conditions. But then, it may not be, they still may be faster in the finals, but I think that might have played into it. That was a bit of a personal revelation for me.
Huh. Well, Geltman, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think you guys are asking the right questions, I mean, I think what's cool is, like, it's a community race down there. Like, you guys, like, the race should be what you guys want it to be. And I think that it is, like, super cool that the Green Race has this successful history of pushing kayak design and, like, pushing kayak designers to make cool new boats. And you don't want to lose that. And at the same time, you don't want manufacturers making, like, $3,000 boats that are only going to survive 3 laps just so their guy can win. And, like, at that point, I think that it would be a reasonable decision to say we don't want that in the race. I think the hard part about doing it the way you guys are doing it is that inevitably you're going to have to, like, say, we're not allowing this boat in the race, and people are going to get pissed off about it. But I think that you guys are like thinking about it the right way. Like, these are the right questions. Like, how do we encourage innovation but keep it a fair-ish race?
I think if any of course, this is, not just my decision, but I think if any manufacturer is planning on bringing something to the market and they think it's innovative, even if they don't have it out at that point, it's always going to be welcome. So that's kind of my
And I think, it's like the short boat class, like, that's the junior class, right? Like, that's the stock class. And then you have the unlimited class, and, like, that's cool,
I say you check your sponsors at the door, even put tape over the boat logos if that's necessary. Any craft you can get down that river is legal. Yep. Anything.
Yep. Well,
if you're ballsy enough to take a full-length wildwater boat down the green, more power to you.
Let's go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'm very interested to see. I've been hearing these rumors about Evan Garcia coming over with a modified 10-foot boat or 11-foot boat or something. The interesting thing about the long boats is that they're faster if you paddle them correctly, but when they spin big. And I think there's a skill level kind of cutoff there where many people are going to be faster in their creek boat. If Evan comes over with a shorter boat that's forgiving but still has good hull speed and ability to plane, and we get some high water where it, like, wants to spin the longer boats, then, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Oh. Well, I want to introduce, we just chimed in two-time Green Race champion Isaac Levinson to the show. Are you there, Isaac?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm actually switching onto my computer because I see you guys are all on, you guys all have the video Skype going. I want to get in on that action.
All right. So,
how are you guys doing?
Good.
Sounds
Isaac.
like a panel on Fox News here.
Yeah. I think this is the biggest. I'm ready for my computer to blow up at any second. This is the biggest panel we've ever had here on the Hammer
So
Factor.
I'm getting a busy message from you on there, John.
I think we may just have to roll with what we got here.
Yeah, no worries. This is good.
So, Isaac,
how are you guys doing?
Good, man. Let me throw this right out to you. You got into the conversation a little bit late. Should the thermoform boats be banned or should they be welcomed?
Man, I mean, since I started racing the green, it's always been wide open, race what you've got, and that's something that's pretty cool about it. So, I mean, hell yeah, I mean, why not? It's going to help, if it helps, like, innovate the sport in a way, and, I mean, I know that the boys at Liquid Logic have put in a lot of work to make thermoform boats, so why not? And I remember, like, when I built a carbon boat, something that was cool was that you could actually race it at the green. Every other race it's kind of not really in the rules, but in the green race there's no rules. First one to the bottom wins.
So is it the product or is it the weight or what? I mean, what, I know people are like, oh, at some point we're going to have to make a choice, but what is it that you would want to make the choice about, is it the manufacturers because everybody makes plastic? You know, I mean, that used to be the thing with the rodeos. They wanted to say no glass boats. But even now, in the big trick competitions, all the big boys have glass boats. Even Dagger has the lightweight layup, you know, race boat for the green. And I don't know. I mean, I think people that want this boat, that really want to win, that actually believe they can win, you know, I think they're going to find a way to get a boat in the game. And they may miss a year, like some people miss a year. The thermo mold, I mean, it's lighter. It's a different product. But, I mean, it pushed it. I mean, you could also take that Dagger boat, drill out a bunch of holes in the walls, take out a bunch of the seat, get you a lighter skirt, lighter life jacket, just like the slalom guys do. Slalom guys are almost bare naked, man. They have, because ounces make pounds. I mean, is it coming down to weight or stiffness?
It's definitely the weight. I mean, that's the biggest advantage. And I think the biggest disadvantage to those thermoform boats are that they aren't very like durable. Like there's no rigidity to it. The ones that I saw at least were like really flexible. So the upside is that, yeah, they're lighter, they accelerate better, they're more responsive. And I think a lot of, you know, the green race is about being able to accelerate. You know, if you're going to save a lot of energy, getting the boat up to speed is that much better. So that's the advantage. The disadvantage is, you know, the durability and whatnot. But then, you know, the other argument is that if it's something that's only available to a select few, it's definitely kind of a bit of a turnoff for the larger population that are going to be racing the green.
And
go ahead.
That flex component is worth noting for the lightweight plastic boats as well, because a lot of people have tested out that, you know, how little plastic you can put in the boat to, you know, hit that ideal place of a lighter boat that, you know, if your boat is flexing like crazy underneath you, you're not going faster, even though you're lighter.
Yeah. I think if it were me and I really cared, I would get like a green boat, light, and then lay up some carbon ribs on the inside.
You know, it's funny though,
Jordan Pothenberger's done that in his C1. He got a light layup stinger and then did carbon rails.
I think that's a good call. I would take the walls out and replace them with styrofoam.
You know, it's interesting
Maybe
though, because this year I'm going back to full weight, just Karma Unlimited. Like I'm not even doing the carbon track because the track kind of has become detached, and that flex that you get, if there's like that gap between where the hole meets the structure support, it's just like you kind of get this weird like bounce thing. And I've just been paddling my stock boat back here, and it's fine. You know, it's heavier, so I notice the acceleration thing. That's the biggest thing. But once you're up to speed, I don't think it really matters, to be honest. Like, you know, you just get that fucker going and go, you know.
Beep.
Well,
oh yeah.
Here's the interesting thing about the green race versus many sports. If you consider triathlons or even race, John, you got me here. Race, SUP, like 14-foot carbon, SUP guys, flatwater SUP guys, or many sports, they're so obsessed with their equipment. They're just like, oh, I didn't do well today because of this. And in the green race, this is the most I've talked about equipment in a long time with green racers, because it's just like, no excuses, man. Freaking put your time down for the year, you know. And that's something that's very refreshing.
Cool. Yeah, that is cool. That it's gonna help. I think light boats definitely help, and it's definitely, you know, there's something to be said there. But at the same time, like, I think it can be done in any boat, and you know, any boat that's like reasonable. I think you can lay down that fast time that you're looking for. But, you know, looking down the future, I mean, lighter boats, I think it's going to be, you know, it's a major advantage. I'm going to say that for sure.
I remember my first upper yacht race. This is back in 1936 or 7. Phil Coleman showed up with a boat he made himself. It was in a black bag. He didn't know what it was, and he had paddled it, made it in secret. He showed up with a black bag on his roof.
Oh, that's sick.
When he got to the race, he unveiled it. It was the projection. And I forgot how he did. But there was a time when people used to build boats for races, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't like a whole R&D team in Greenville making him a boat. It was just a dude in a shed making an awesome boat for one race. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
That's kind of that whole argument right now, though, is that if that starts happening, like that's the argument with like Corin's boats, and like if that starts happening, then it's like the people are afraid that it's going to kill the sport because you'll have to compete. You would have to build a custom boat in a
He was
way,
saying
which
about
I don't
forever.
think is really true. I don't
And he
really
keeps
think that's
innovating.
true. I think that's cool.
I want to
don't
see
think-
some unsponsored charger out there
Exactly what I'm getting at.
build
Yeah.
a boat, and then I want to see all the sponsored kayakers bitching because they can't
Yes.
win in the boat that they're required to paddle. That's the
Yes.
content I want to see.
Yes.
If there's ever a place that's
In
going to
fact-
happen, it's going to be
in
the
fact,
Green River
IR
Narrows
should put
race.
up like a bounty.
Yeah.
Like an unsponsored paddler. You get like free dry suits for life if an unsponsored paddler makes a boat and wins the race.
There you go. You
Do
heard it
not
right here on
hold
the
me to
Hammer
this.
Factor.
It's a theoretical conversation.
No. This is written down. Check the show notes for the guarantee.
I'm trying to think who that person is right now. Like, who's the person out there that could do that? Who's the unsponsored paddler?
It's some homeschool kid from upstate Maine who's going to come down here in a boat that he made because that's what he's been studying for school. In his basement is boat building.
What are they called? Manos? Maynard?
Yeah.
It's probably the kid who won. It's probably the kid who won Smalls to the Walls. All right, moving on. Well, we're going to keep on the green race topic here. Let's talk about. So there's Isaac. You wrote a really good article that I just saw that came out on the Jackson blog about the 4-minute barrier and creeping down to it. And if you're not aware, let me provide the viewer a little backdrop. Long time ago, it was breaking 5 minutes, and then it was 4:40, and a lot of this was hillocky over the years, and everybody chasing Tommy, and the times went down, and then it was Isaac and Pat and Grotmans, and then just the times just keep coming down and down and down, and you're not going to win the green race now unless you're in the teens. It's just not going to happen. But there's that 4-minute barrier that just has not been broken yet. Is it how? And I'll let you go into kind of your position on this, Isaac, but how is that going to happen?
Yeah, well, thanks for the intro there. And I think that what it will take is just a year with some good water. And, we're just getting closer and closer every year. Like, I know that, like, DeGill was doing some sub 4:10 recorded runs that I'd really like to see his GoPro of. And, every year you just take a couple seconds off your time and then you get some bumps in the water flow and then it's bound to happen. I think for it to happen in the race would be crazy. I think it will eventually happen, but what I would like to see first is just somebody tag it in a practice run. That would be huge, just to know that it's possible. And then once you have that, knowledge that it's doable and know what it's going to take, then, it's going to really open up the door for it to actually go down. Personally, I think that it's definitely, the fastest I've done is like 4:13 or something like that, 4:14. So taking 15 seconds off of my time that's huge. It's so hard to get a 4:13 that I can't really imagine what it's going to take to go harder. But, watching the guys at Sick Line this year was really inspiring. Like, the pace that they were paddling at was unreal. And I think that although that's only a 60-second long race, if you could take that pace to the green and hold that, I think that's what it would take. So therefore, I think you would have to train extremely hard, put in months of training, doing ridiculous sprints at 4 minutes, to be able to hold that pace. And then, it's whitewater, so it's just super unpredictable. And sometimes you get these really amazing surges where you don't get your face wet and everything goes perfectly. And sometimes the river has its way. So there's a lot that can happen, but it's definitely doable. I think that it will happen.
So, Isaac, what do you think are, and I have my own personal opinions on this matter, but I'm interested to hear yours. What do you think are the fastest, or what do you think are the water levels that will enable that, if any?
Yeah, I know. We've always talked about that, right? I think, I think that 13, 14 inches seems like pretty magic flow because it's fast and everything is greased up in between. The upper part is the first minute and a half. You can take 5-6 seconds off your run right there, just because everything's filled in. And then it's not crazy hard through Go Left and all the other stuff down through Gorilla, and the slides get they're not like crazy hard like they are at like 17 inches where you're just like taking chests of water. Something else that's interesting is the boat thing. Like I do think that, like you were saying earlier when I kind of tuned into the conversation, that like I think shorter boats honestly might be the ticket. Like that 10.5-foot length is like, there's something to be said about that. Like I think that, you know, that could be one of the progressions in the direction of sub 4. So yeah.
So you think it's going to take a different boat, Isaac, than what's on the market right now?
No, I think it can totally be done with what we have right now. I just think that, you know, getting the consistency down might, you know, different designs could play a role in that. But I think it's like I'm not going to claim that I'm going to do it this year, but like I'm going to go try. Like I'm fired up to bring my GoPro and just try to do as many fast laps as I can down the green this year. Like Pat always does, and Chris and DeGill, like, you know, we're always chasing that right now, so might as well.
Well, let's you know, this year we've got like some of the most stacked field that we've ever had coming to the race, and I feel like this is going to be a record-breaking year as far as times, and that's just because the water level has been really good. There's more rain in the forecast, and I think it's just going to shape up. It's not like last year when we were in a big drought and everything that was going on. But, like, let's just go over this field. So you got the first and second place finishers at the North Fork Championship, Dane and Evan Moore, who are on the start list this year. Evan, I don't know if has he ever raced in any kind of technical race like this. This may just throw him out.
He just raced in the Gnarl Fest, which is the South Fork of the Feather. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that's a very strong, hard grassroots race, and it also is having the challenges of where it's an open class race. We showed up with some longboats a couple years ago, and that would be a good race for the hybrid length. I mean, because longboats are a little complex. The short boats are great, but you could do a little longer boat. But he has done that, and he did fairly well in that. I think he got a 4th. So
he was out there and got 4th.
And got 4th.
No, I don't think so actually. I think he was closer to 6th.
6th.
Isaac.
There
you go. All right. So maybe take his name off the dark horse list.
Nah,
any first timer at the green.
He put in the work. Yeah, you know,
most
that's
of the time they don't fare well.
Yeah. And we got DeGill.
Especially Rush.
We got DeGill, Keller, Jones, Voorhees. Anyway, it's going to be a stacked race this year. We got to move on from the green race, but one more thing before we move on here. Colin Hunt and Dylan McKinney. Is Dylan going to come off and bet, or is he just going to be on the sidelines? Where's this at? Because this has been going on for a long time.
I've been trying to make a bet with Dylan for 3 years now, and he won't bet me. So, Dylan, I'm calling you out. It's time to put up or shut up. Straight up, babe.
He should bet him because some of his times are pretty good. I mean, it's worthy for
It's definitely a
strong
good race.
bet.
That's a really good race right there. But at the same time, you know, you could just go out there and race your own race and have no outside pressure.
And it's not green race if you're not making bets.
So. True. Okay.
Isaac, are you betting anybody? Come on, Isaac. Who are you betting?
I'll bet you. We did it.
I'm not betting. I know where I'm betting.
I think you have 30 seconds, dude. I gave you 30 seconds. I forget what we bet, though.
Oh, you got to take that, Hale.
All right.
30 seconds?
I'm already 500 in. How much are we betting?
I forget. We made a good bet at this
guys. All right. Well, we got to move on in the show here. Thanks for coming on, Green Race panel. Lots of good stuff there. And this we'll.
Is this our last show pre Green Race?
This is it. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to pull it off again.
Thanks.
So should we have some predictions here or what?
Yeah, let's throw it out there. All right, first, second, third. Lewis, you're up.
I don't even know who's
All right. So I'll just go through some of the top contenders here. Tommy Hillicky.
Weld's eyes are glazing over.
Matt Anger. Chris Grotman. Yeah, we got to preface our viewers that Weld hates it when I talk about the Green Race.
I don't hate it. I just have very little to contribute. It's just a bunch of Asheville people hyped up over a race.
Chris Grotman.
Well, you're such a curmudgeon.
Holt McWhirk.
Gelman feels the same way. He just somehow skated out of this.
Hey, I'm going to tell you someone who's going to do good this year is Alec Voorhees.
Do well.
well.
Jesus
Thank you.
Christ! Come on.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think you're at a disadvantage on the green race because it's so shallow and there's so much bottom drag if you're like a bigger dude?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's why Anio said
Without
he
a
would
doubt.
race. He said there's no, bigger boys. Yeah.
I kind of have that in my head a little bit in the predictions, like as a check against like Alec Voorhees and Evan Moore. Like those guys are both super fast, but they're both like kind of big dudes. I feel like that's a tough thing to overcome on the green.
Yeah, but
goes back to weight.
DeGille's massive, and he crushed it last year. You know, I think
DeGille's
what
a
was
unit
his-
for sure.
Yeah. So, but he's also put in the time. He's got 10 years of racing the green. So there's that.
So we got Keller, DeGill, Dane. I mean, throw it out there, Lewis. What you got?
I feel like my picks are so like boring, you know. I don't know. I mean, how do you bet against Dane? Dane, Isaac, Pat? I don't know.
Dane, Isaac,
I don't know.
Pat.
I
Well,
gotta think about it. I gotta look at the list.
I'm going to say Hillicky.
Hillicky taking it home. All right. Where you at?
So DeGille won it last year, right?
DeGill won.
Yes,
He
yeah.
beat Pat by 1 second, and then I think Brad McMillan was third. Brad
Yep.
McMillan was third with like a
Yep.
4:21 or something like that.
Wouldn't count him out for sure. That number 1 jersey is tough to wear. So I'll be interested to see what DeGille does with that.
DeGille also crushed the qualification race at Sick Line by a lot, and there's so many fast people there, so he's definitely got the speed.
Indication
So
of fit.
Can't rule him out. That's for
And
sure.
he was not in a thermal full boat there at Sick
Dude, I
Line.
think he was in a flying squirrel, which makes it like that much more impressive, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, is Ian going down? He's been smashing, huh?
I think he is. Yeah, he just won the Moose race.
Dude, Max Blackburn definitely was claiming Ian for the win. So
Yeah, I've heard a couple Ian's been thrown out there. I mean,
Stallmeister's pretty quick.
yeah.
This dad bod squad idea is pretty intriguing to me as well.
Yeah. Now that's something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I saw Jason talking some smack about the parents in Asheville, but I'm liking this.
Hell, y'all all got them. I'm like, Jesus, something's in the water.
Oh,
I
yeah,
bring my own
Robin,
water
you
when I
joined-
come to Asheville.
I joined the dad bod squad this year. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one.
Instead of a
Man, I'll
silverback,
I'll
instead of a
take
silverback
Grotman's-
race, we should have
I'll
a
take Grotman's in that
father's
pick
race.
for sure.
I'll do father-son race. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Because Hillicky
yeah.
and I are. I'll show up for that.
All right. Well, Howard, the Magleys are the first father-son race. It's happening this year, so that's going to be the
That's cool.
top of the
Badass.
podium.
Hell yeah.
I mean, in Dad Bod, we got Grotmans, we got DeGill, we got Hillicky, we got
yeah.
myself. DeGill's a dad, dude. That just ruins it for us.
Yeah, that just got it tough for you guys.
Anyway, dad class is thick. All right, we are running out of time here, guys. Hale, throw us your predictions, top 3. This is the only voice that matters.
Man. I don't think Tommy's going to take it, but I think he may podium, so I'll put him third. And then it's going to be between, I think, Isaac and Dane, and I think hopefully they'll separate themselves and not make my timing, our green race timing, choose it. But we do have a new timing system once again, so good luck, boys.
You guys, is it down to 100th of a second?
Thousandth of a second.
Thousands.
All right.
It's so
What
close.
is the timing system?
It's a Broward timing system, laser timing system. It's operated by radio system, so hopefully it won't fail on us.
Which is a challenge in the gorge. Last year we hardwired the whole gorge, which we've now cleaned up all that wire, and that worked for like the first 4 racers, but luckily we didn't need it. Well, somebody fucking whacked it, and that was it. That was
Yeah.
done. So,
All right,
all right,
moving
boys.
on.
Next Hammer
Yeah,
Factor.
Yeah, thank you, Hale.
Thanks, guys. Can't wait for Green Race. Later.
Yeah, we'll see ya.
Awesome.
Later,
See you guys
guys.
next week.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. All right. Later, guys.
There you have it. Well, you still awake?
Yeah.
I like pre-race smack talking, man, and I like guessing what's going to happen in races. This is like solid sports talk radio stuff. This should be solidly in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put Dane as the podium. I'm gonna put Pat in second, and I'm gonna put my boy Colin here in third.
I mean, you can't. I mean, statistically speaking, Dane is more likely to win than anyone else.
Dude, he's on fire.
It did like 25% chance of winning. That's more than anyone else by double points.
Yeah. Yep. No, I hear you. So let's move on from the green race. We love the green race. We'll talk about the green race after the green race. And but right now we gotta pull green race legend Rush Sturgis. Rush.
Here we go.
Rush is a green race legend. He doesn't even know it.
I think he's well aware of that
Yeah.
legend. He lived it.
And anyway, we're gonna pull in our green race legend Rush Sturgis, and he will kind of set us straight on our cruise contest, which was wildly successful, I hear.
I'm surprised he had time to wait through all the entries.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot out of my time here. I'm pretty busy guy, but I did manage to get through most of them.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the Hammer Factor, living green race legend Rush Sturgis.
Oh man, that's got to be my intro. I've got to live with that for the rest of my life. So we had a grand total of 2 entries, right?
Yep.
2 entries. It was like 1.5, really. I mean, one of them wasn't really even an entry.
Right.
It was sort of a secret society that someone hinted about.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, those guys are pretty much, I think, just getting disqualified right away because like I couldn't even look at their group or anything. I just had like a very vague, little description, and that was about it. So
Clearly, being a first-tier crew requires endlessly telling everybody else how sick you are, and if you're not doing that,
That's right.
right, totally. So yeah, DQ'd on that one. The only other entry we had was Quebec Connection, who I'm pretty familiar with, and let's see what's their. I kind of went through a lot of the different groups here and just sort of read their descriptions because I think that's a good indicator of how gangster they are.
Well, what cruise were you looking at? I mean, you went beyond the submissions.
Well, I went beyond
submission, I should say.
Rush, are you there? Yo. Man, we may have lost Rush. This is not good. Right as we were getting to the money shot here. I'm going to try him back. See, the worst part about this is this just creates work for me. Oh, man.
do you edit this stuff out, or are we supposed to be filling?
I'll edit this out. I may just leave this in here. All right, Rush.
Yeah.
You there?
You guys. Yeah, I'm back here.
All right, sorry, we lost you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no worries. So anyway, we got, I've got a solid list here. We've got BDP, Quebec Connection, River Borders in Canada, and Sporty River Jam Squad, which is obsolete at this point.
And Torrid.
Yeah, Torrid. What are your guys' feelings on? Why don't we kick it off with Torrid? What do you think about these kids?
Can you read their description?
Yeah, let's see here. Where I got it right here somewhere. I don't think they really had a description on there. Actually, is kind of a -1.
Like they have a mission statement. You're saying they need a mission statement of sorts.
They need to go through some strategic planning.
They're the most. Like what would be? I mean, I think you read the mission statement of the Long Creek guys last week, which I thought was spot on, perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought so. I thought so too. And I'm looking through this here. Yeah, so we've got BDP, which is it probably has the best description. Yeah, it says this is mostly about kayaking and other things that get us wet. Also, balls deep since '06. This is a porn site church.
And that's not bad.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good.
I mean, that's
I think
pretty
they hit on a couple of key points there. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, but is that better than keep Long Creek gangster? We kayak hard and do cool ass shit. Oh man, they edited it down. I think after the show.
Oh, they did, didn't they?
Oh, that may be some point deductions.
Yeah,
Oh
they got
man, I was wondering if you got any pushback from that last week, Grace. If you have had your tires slashed or any.
Their
any
parents
were
probably heard what you
complaining.
said and called them, told them to take it down or something.
You
I mean, I hope they were conflating. Well, thank you. Conflating my hysterical laughter with disapproval. I was laughing with joy. I mean, I thought it was it was gold what they had put down there. Truly.
Well, I want to quickly just kind of go and just touch on BDP because I feel like BDP is maybe kind of like the left coast version of like the Long Creek Gangsters. Is that maybe a fair comparison?
You think it's sort of the Snoop?
Yeah,
Long
like,
Creeks.
like some Tupac Biggie stuff.
Tupac,
I'm not 100% sure on that one, but we'll roll with it. We'll go with it.
I mean, but that said, like you're looking at the West Coast here. I pal with these guys a lot. You have a pretty all-star cast here. King Hesh, in my opinion, one of the more talented, underrated boaters out there in the game. With strong competitive standings, and he can party with the best of them. Jam Boy, also arguably one of the more progressive paddlers in the game. I mean, this guy, he doesn't, he brings a breakdown on the river, not because he's worried about breaking his paddle, but because he does so many paddle tosses.
That's pretty rad. I mean,
it's pretty good. And I mean, like burly ones, dude, like, under the log at Stovepipe down the right there. Like he's done that a few times. I mean, it's impressive. It defies logic, really.
This is the BDP crew you're talking about.
This is BDP crew, Balls Deep Production.
Gang.
I have a
we
real
mention-
soft spot.
Should
I have
we
a real
mention
soft
Tits
spot in my
Deep?
heart for BDP.
I mean, should we mention Tits Deep, the female counterpart to Balls Deep? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that kind of was a thing for a while there. They've been, I don't know if they've been active as much in recent years, but they're, I mean, for sure gang related as well, I'd say.
Should we find a Tits Deep description real quick?
Yeah, see what you can pull up there. One other thing to mention about BDP is, one of their main athletes, Eric Parker. He actually, I left a kayak at their house one time, and he actually got drunk and sawed it in half.
That's gangsta.
That's gangsta.
That's the most gangster thing I've heard all day.
Perfectly
Hold on, I'm making a note of this.
functional mamba,
kayak in
functional
half.
kayak.
Speaking of belligerent kayak destruction,
That's great.
Rush, do you have any rumors you want to spread on the podcast this week?
Oh man, I was playing with fire. I don't know.
What do we got here? What? Elaborate.
It's an exclusive. That's the Hammer Factory exclusive. We need like a music to bring in the Hammer Factory exclusive.
I don't know if I should touch this one. It's too gang related, I think.
Ah, my God.
Really?
All right.
Are you leaving the country next week, right? For like 3 months.
Well, hopefully like 3 weeks, unless I.
Whatever. Let's just spill our guts, and by the time you get back, it'll all be gone. Believe me, Trump will have eclipsed whatever nightmare you're about to reveal in several hours.
All right, what you got, Rush?
I'm not gonna say any names. I don't know anything more than there was a dispute between some paddlers, and someone ended up getting their kayak shot with some holes in it. This is just rumor, just hearsay. Don't know any names. Don't even know if it's real. But that's the deal when you play around with these gangs. It happens.
Yeah.
Was it a drive-by or did they post up?
But
All right, let's get into tits deep here. Ladies who are charging in extreme sports, these chicks are considered tits deep. We are real powerful and bring the most substantial amount of style and ease into everything that we do.
wow,
It's not gangster
pretty
enough.
it's eloquent, but not gangster.
I feel like they just
Right.
borrowed a bunch of buzzwords from other groups on that one.
Yeah, they
it was
kind
a
of
little
nailed that one
ethnic.
in.
Yeah,
It feels a little ethnocentric to me.
yeah, very ethnocentric.
Well, let's read the Quebec Connection one, because this is, I think, probably the most boring of them all. We are a group of paddlers working hard to promote whitewater kayaking in Quebec by creating visual content, stories, and memories. #ExploreQuebec.
Man, that's so
I think
Canadian.
that's the Outdoor Alliance tagline.
They're
Sounds
just
like it was written by the Quebec Tourism Board.
they're just Canadians are so nice, dude. That just defines how nice Canadians are right there. I mean,
they're trying to be gangsta.
I'll
but
just
it's
tell
not-
you, we try to be gangsta out here, but we got nobody shooting holes in
Yeah,
other people's boats.
that's actually pretty hard for a bunch of Canadians. I'd
We
say.
have boats being sawed in half. We have boats getting shot. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the Compton of the paddling world is somewhere out there by you, Rush.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's
Good
I
old
think it's-
Benjamin.
King Hesh, who's basically like a kingpin of some sort.
He's their ringleader.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with him. So the other one I had on my list here, which I think is worth bringing up, I didn't find a description for them, but the river boarders, Canadian river boarders. I gotta say, man, I never thought I'd say this, but I give those guys props, dude. Have you guys watched the Tom Patterson promo video? It's pretty impressive, man. That's pretty cool.
Weld's gonna
I
hate
haven't
it.
seen it.
You guys aren't on board.
I'm on board.
I haven't seen it.
I'm on board.
It's impressive, man. I mean, this guy. I mean, he's running legit stuff on a riverboard, like duck diving holes. I mean, it's like it's different, you know. And hell, I would not want to be out there on one of those things. Not a chance.
It's like if stand-up paddleboarding was actually cool.
Would be like that.
Well, this came to us by way of Jed Hawks, who wrote an email to us alerting us of the Canadian freestyle riverboarding people. And I'd even look at it because right off the bat, I'm like, he had 4 strikes in a row, which makes me think he doesn't even listen to this podcast. He had freestyle, he had riverboarding, and he had Canadians. Boom. And I was like, he has the wrong podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, right now I'm going to apologize, Canadians. Sorry, joke at your expense.
Oh, sorry.
So Rush, who's your winner? Who's the cruise contest winner?
Well, we haven't. We I think should go back to Torrid because we didn't really get to chat too much about them. Did you guys have a little something you wanted to talk about with them? Aren't they immersion research or who
They were IR, and then they quit to go to. They found like a new flashier girlfriend who had a nice car, sweet.
Yep.
And evidently now they're back. I didn't know about this, but Max Blackburn let us know the other day that Torrid is back on the IR team. I'd love to know how that transpired. I haven't talked to these boys. I'm going to tell you a story about a similar situation years ago, and I'm not going to mention any names, but let's just call him Little Dave. All right? There once was a boy named Little Dave who used to paddle for immersion research, and he too was wooed away by another sponsor who waved some money in front of his face, and he left, and that company, Patagonia, went out of business about 8 months later. So, and he, of course, tried to come back, but things didn't work out, and now look at him.
He came crawling back. He's just a washed-up pro. Yep.
Right, now he's living in a cardboard box somewhere in L.A.
Yeah. Happens to the best of them.
Dude, he's Al Bundy, dude. He's out selling shoes, man.
Well, shoot, man, I think it's pretty evident who is the most gangster here. I think I'm gonna have to go with. I never thought I'd say this because I actually really dislike them, but BDP.
So BDP is officially the top crew for 2018.
Yeah, top.
They can put that on their Facebook. The world's top crew, as rated by Hammer Factor.
Well, top gang.
Most gangster.
Yeah, it's
Top gang.
yeah. The
We should
email
make like a seal, like the outside magazine Top Gear seal. We should make one of those for their website.
Let me ask you this, Rush. Do they have a gang sign? Because if they don't have a gang sign, that can knock them down.
Yeah, for sure. They're the church. I mean, that's the origin of church, which can be, heard on every river on the planet nowadays. So they've got the church thing going. Yep. They actually, I think, started gang signs and kayaking, or definitely some of the founders there.
Well, there you go.
Making a comeback.
There you go. You have it. All right, BDB, congratulations. You guys have made it. You're number one gang. In fact, I wonder if there's any French gangs.
or any sup gangs.
Ooh.
Definitely.
What if are there any sup crews that we should be evaluating? I feel like that could be mined for some humor.
I'll bring that in next episode. All right, before we get into our rants and raves here, I want to go ahead and next issue, we have a ladies episode coming up, is what I'm hearing, with an all-star studded cast, including your lovely wife, Kara, and Noria, and some other folks. Who else on that call?
Look at the show notes. It looks pretty good. I don't want to mention the guests. I'll let them announce it, but they do have a couple great guests. I think they're going to pick up where you guys left off with Adrian, I think, in the green race, but I'm not 100% sure. I think they're looking at some women-specific boats. And that's next week. I think they're going to record it, so it's coming right out. We're taking a break, right, until after the green race.
Yep. And then we also have our anonymous boat reviewer coming on for his first episode. That will be coming on after the ladies issue.
Right. That will absolve us from any blame for any negative or positive things said about a boat manufacturer.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Perfect.
And then also, Kevin Kennedy, I know you're out there. You wrote us a great email. It's been read. I'm just going to leave it at that. We're discussing it here internally. But hopefully we'll have more about that later on.
It's a very layered email, so we'll peel it back. All right, let's get right into it. Rush, I know you had no idea we were doing this. Rants and raves, everyone's favorite part of the show. What is your rant or what is your rave?
You can kick it down the road too and come back. We can come back to you.
Yeah, come back to me. I didn't know I was gonna be on the spot.
All right, well, that's how we roll here. I'll lead this off. I'm gonna go ahead. I have a rave, and the reason I have a rave is because you know how we talked a while back about doing like old school boat reviews. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I did. I took the old Spirit out, the prototype Spirit, one of the first boats that's ever been rotomolded in the U.S. And it was horrible.
Did you steal that like the Smithsonian?
It was horrible.
It was horrible?
It was horrible.
Really?
Okay. And so I'm just going to... oh my God, dude, you couldn't turn it. The cockpit, I couldn't fit my laptop computer in the cockpit. It's so small.
That is a requirement, mandatory for millennial voters, I suppose, right?
None of my skirts would fit it. I just kind of put them over there, over the top of it. It just had the tiniest skirt. It has anti-rocker. Like literally.
Camber.
Yes, exactly. It has zero chine, no edges. It's got no.
How are you supposed to plug a waterfall like the Red October if you don't have anti-rocker?
Anyway, it was
with
horrible.
Your hands above your head, like.
It was horrible. It scooted along really good in the flat water, but it was horrible. What I'm going to rave about is just the next day, I went out to the same spot to the ledges, and I had my Odachi and lightweight Stinger and super waterproof Royal Flush spray skirt and all of this incredible gear. And so I'm just going to rave about how badass the gear is now compared to that dinosaur that I took out there. So that's what I got. I'm just going to rave on all the cool stuff we get to use. Anybody else?
Geltman?
Yeah, I'm going to rant about green race haters. John Weld, there are all these people out there who hate on the green, hate on the green race. The green race is unquestionably the world's greatest kayaking race held in the Southeast.
Amen.
It's one of the most beautiful.
It's the greatest race held in the Asheville area. Asheville, Brevard, Saluda Triangle.
Beautiful Class 4 runs in Western North Carolina, hands down. It draws a field of the world's best Southeastern kayakers.
All right. I see where this joke's going. I'm starting to like it.
Yeah, I don't know where all the hate comes from, man.
So I've got a rave followed by a rant. They're kind of tied together. I got a rave on all the people that come in from out of town to race the green race, because it is, very different than all the races out there. It's very technical. You're dodging in between rocks, and there's undoubtedly a locals advantage. Like people that come in from out of town, they have a week or two to learn the lines on a long race course the locals that race it and you're getting 420s, they've been practicing for months and months. So love all the guys that come in from out of town, and I got a rant on the locals that hate on the out-of-towners. There is...
Who is that? Oh, I guess you can't name names.
Well, I don't even know who these guys were, but we were at the after party last year, and Rush was in the middle of getting his hair dyed purple after pretty epic race, and
I think it was, but yeah.
some guys just like walked up and were like, "Hey, you suck, man! Your race sucked. Like, welcome to the green." It's like that's not the negativity, or that's not the attitude that I like to see at the green race. Like, if you don't have anything to contribute positively, like, stay home, don't come. I hate on haters.
Yeah, I was kind of unfortunate, but at the end of the day, like, I can take all of that pretty well, I feel, and it was all good throughout the whole night. Like, it's a lesson in humility, and it's good to laugh at yourself, and everything was funny up until it kind of like at a certain point was like, all right, this feels like a little malicious, or just like didn't feel welcome, but overall, like, I have nothing but like awesome things to say about the community out there, and I did like actually have like an awesome week and was like stoked to put down some like 425s in my practice or whatever, and just start to get it dialed, despite my blowout in the actual race.
My whole thing.
The green race is legitimately sick, man. I like to have fun at race's expense, and I see him staring daggers at me right now. But all good banter, man.
I could do a rant. Slightly off topic and on a more serious note, but don't you guys like just get the feeling lately like the world is like kind of falling apart?
Try not to think about it.
That is the king of all rants right there.
And I think
Should we just end there?
I mean,
rant of all time.
Like, you can go into it on so many levels, but I think what speaking to this podcast specifically, more just like environment, I mean, it's like, whether or not you believe climate change is caused by humans or not, like like things are changing and weather patterns are getting different, and whatever we're doing here as humans are, it seems to be impacting the planet and potentially our survival. I don't know. It's just something that it's always occurred to me, but lately has felt more pronounced. And I guess my rant would just be, I think, like, as much as we can complain about policy and government not doing enough to combat this, ultimately, like, we kind of each need to make an effort, as much as that might sound like a hippy-dippy thing to say. Like, yeah, I think it's vital for the preservation of life as we know it.
Well said. Well said. We have a hashtag for that, Rush. It's called #EverythingIsFucked.
Right.
Mr. Weld, where are you at?
All right, I got a rant. It's not quite as big as Rush's rant. I mean, I'm going to take it down a notch. I'm going to go a little more specific. All right, so I had this thought at like 5 a.m. a couple mornings ago, right? And I'm thinking, I'll start explaining it like this, right? So let's suppose kayaking is like a species of creature, right? And if there's an origin of our species, it's like kids who are playing by a river, like throwing sticks in a river, and they get to like a waterfall or a slide, and they jump in and start swimming. That's like the core love of paddle sports or whitewater kayaking comes from that kind of a feeling, like a joy, right? And sort of exploration and whitewater and current and swimming and all these things. Jump to now where you have people wearing dry suits in the summer, right? My rant is on people who wear dry suits in the summer. Now, I make dry suits for a living, and I love selling dry suits to people. But if you're in the East Coast and you're wearing a dry suit and it's 80 degrees out, you're missing the point, I think.
You're
on Grace.
You're essentially ranting at me. Well,
yeah. I mean, first of all, I know every dry suit manufacturer out there, and we all complain about people who wear dry suits in the summer, and they write us or call us and say, "I'm soaking wet on the inside of this thing." It's because you're sweating. you're tipped off. But also, it just seems like you're taking a step back. You need to, if it's warm and you're paddling the East Coast, go paddle in a t-shirt. You know what I mean? Yvon Chouinard once said after a product meeting where people were talking about how they're trying to keep a rain jacket waterproof, he's like, "What's wrong with being wet?"
I don't like to get wet. I'll say I do go from like a shorty, and as soon as it starts getting cold and I got to start thinking about putting like latex gaskets on and whatever, I just go straight to dry suit. There's no dry top for me. So, hate all you want.
I don't really like wearing dry suits if I don't have to.
Yeah, like I paddled. Well, as I mentioned a couple times, I paddled the Gala this whole fall where it's beautiful. It's 80 degrees and the water is like 70 degrees. Why would you want to put anything but the lightest amount of gear you could possibly put on?
I like it because it keeps my socks dry. I can just wear the same socks all the time.
There you go.
Like it's a comfort thing for me personally. I'm all about the dry season, summer, winter, whatever. I mean, especially around here where the rivers are actually like cold year round.
Well, you guys have a different situation.
Yeah,
I think the dry deck is a garment that more people should familiarize themselves with.
Back at Valley Mill. Here we go. All right. I think we'll end there. Congrats to BDP for winning the cruise challenge. And thanks again, Rush, for coming on. We are excited to hear about your Indus trip when you get home. Safe travels to you and the team.
Thank you.
And until after the green race, Hammer
Hold on,
Factor's
Kara's
out.
here. Kara's here. Hey, Kara, do you want to talk about the women's show? What's coming up? She's saying no. Never mind.
I'm not ready.
All right.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. There you have it. Thanks for listening to the Hammer Factor. Until next episode, we will see you on the river.
Ciao.
Thanks,
See you guys.